Greetings, everyone. I am Mr. Molale from Ikailelo Secondary School, and I am a senior marker for Life Sciences Paper 2. So for today, we are going to focus on the content of Paper 2, which is human evolution. Now, during my presentation, we will go through the content. We will also focus on the questions and also look at the common mistakes that are learners making when they answer questions. So I believe when you write paper 2, you are not going to make those mistakes and you will be able to answer questions as expected. Now, without wasting time, let us look at the information I have with you here. Firstly, it's important that you know that the family that we belong as modern humans and other primates, we fall under the family Hominidae. So you have to know that. When you are asked the family in which modern humans and other primates fall into, or the family in which primates fall into, you must know the family is Hominidae. And moving forward also, in the family of Hominidae, it includes the hominids. Now the hominids, it's both the great apes as well as the hominins. Now, hominids, we will see that they are divided into two, the great apes and the great apes examples. We have your orangutans, the gorillas, and the chimpanzees. And then the hominins, these are species which are bipedal. Hominins are the species that are bipedal. And those species that are bipedal, we have Adipithecus, Australopithecus, and the Homo species. So that is also very important. Now, you will also be asked about a diagram like this, which is called a phylogenetic tree. So when you face such a question on the question paper, you have to be able to interpret it and answer those questions. Now, if we look at the diagram, we have letter A here, and we have letter B, we have letter C, we have letter D, and we also have letter E. Now, if we look at A, we regard them as what? As the common ancestor for all the species that are mentioned above. But if we look at B, whenever you are asked what does B represent, you cannot write B as what? As the common ancestor. It must be the recent common ancestor of the gibbons, the orangutans, gorillas, chimpanzees, as well as the humans. Do you get that? So this one, A, is the common ancestor for all of them. But B is not a common ancestor. It's the recent common ancestor for these ones that appear after. And then C will also be the recent common ancestor of just the orangutans, gorilla, the chimpanzees, as well as the humans. So please be careful of such a question whenever it's asked. Now, we are going to look at the similarities or the characteristics that humans share with other primates. It is important that you know all of them. All 15 of them, you have to know them and be able to explain them. You are not going to say, I will just study 5. You will see why I'm going to say that. Ne? You have to know all of them. So these are the characteristics that we share with the great apes, such as the orangutans. We are the modern humans. So the characteristics that you must know that we share is upright posture number 1. You cannot only state the characteristics. It is also important that you know how to explain the characteristics or the advantages of such a characteristic that we share. So if you say we have upright posture, now the upright posture, remember, it's being able to stand like this, right? So now this upright posture, it allows us to be able to use our hands while we are walking or while we are standing. So you must be able to explain why is it an advantage to have an upright posture. It also gives an exposure of the genitals to attract the opposite sex, and it also gives us a better view of the surroundings. Now, the mistake that learners do when they give the advantage of the upright posture, they would say, we share the characteristic upright posture for us to be able to view our surroundings. The answer will be incorrect because all organisms can view, right? But us who are upright, there is an increased awareness of our what? Of our environment. So if you just write to view the surroundings, the answer will be wrong because remember, other organisms that are quadrupedals, they can also view their surroundings. But for us, because we have an upright posture, we have a better view of the surrounding. So please be careful of that. Number 2, both the modern humans and the great apes, we have a larger brain relative to body size. So when we speak of the large brain, it is important to include relative to what? To body size, because there are also organisms which have a larger brain, such as the elephant. Now, a large brain, it allows us to be able to process and store information. But we cannot just say to process. Ne? It allows us to process information faster. Ne? And we must also state that to store large amounts of information, not just to store information. Then we have long upper arms. You just don't write long arms. It must be long upper arms. And then having long upper arms, it makes it easier for us to grasp and also to swing from the branches. Then the 4th characteristic that we share with other primates is that we have 2 eyes in front, not just 2 eyes. It must be 2 eyes in front of the head. And this provides binocular vision, as we know that we are able to see with 2 eyes, and it allows us to see the better view of the surroundings as well. Then the 5th one that we share is that our eyes have cones. We know that the cones are the photoreceptors, which allows us to see color and also to see bright objects. So having cones is for color vision, for greater clarity of what we are looking at. Then the 6th characteristic that we share is 2 tits or nipples, not mammary glands. It must be 2 tits or nipples. If you write mammary glands, 2 mammary glands, the answer will be incorrect. It must be tits. Then the 7th one that we share is freely rotating arms, at least with a degree of 360. So it must be freely rotating arms with 360 degrees. So with us having freely rotating arms, it gives us an advantage for us to be able to swing from the branches and also to pick up the fruits that are hanging, or to lift, and also to lift objects. Now, for this one, if you only write free arms or just rotating arms without writing freely rotating arms, your answer will be incorrect. It must be freely rotating arms. Then, the 8th one that we share is elbow joint, which allows the rotation of the forearm. Now, this allows the limbs to extend or to be flexible in also be able to reach objects. So, like I said, you are not only going to, when you study, you must study how to state them and also be able to explain why is it an advantage to have such a characteristic. The 9th characteristic that we have is bare fingertips or nails instead of claws. So you must choose between the two. If you choose bare fingertips, stick to bare fingertips. You are not going to write both of them. If you write nails instead of claws, you stick to that one. Why? Is because we have soft hands, fingers, right, which are very sensitive. Then we have the 10th characteristic that we share, which is an opposable thumb. We all know what is an opposable thumb. Again, we have 5 fingers, 4 is facing up, and then the 5th one, which is the thumb, is facing in an opposite direction. So we call it an opposable thumb. So both us and the great apes, we have an opposable thumb. And this opposable thumb, it is an advantage to us because it assists us with power grip. So we are able to grasp objects. Then, the 11th characteristics, remember the first characteristic that we talked about is upright posture. So, if you are upright, we said it exposes what? The genitals. So one word or the term that is used for exposure of genitals, it is sexual dimorphism. So the reason these genitals are supposed to be exposed, it's because it is going to make an opposite, it is to attract the opposite gender during the mating period. So you must also know that. Then we have rotating hands at least 180, and then our olfactory brain centers are reduced, meaning the sense of smell of us as well as the great apes, it is reduced as it is compared to other species. And the last one is that part of the brain that processes information from the hands and the eyes, they are enlarged. So these are all the 14 characteristics that you must know that we share with other primates. And please, ladies and gentlemen, know all 14 of them, because questions are very specific when it comes to the characteristics that we share. You will see when we do the questions. Now, as I was going through the characteristics, I was showing you the correct way of stating them. Now, this one of the large brain, you see, it's important that you must write it as large brain relative to body size. The incorrect way is just writing large brain. So, if you just write large brain, no mark will be allocated. 2 eyes in front of the head, not just 2 eyes. Long upper arms, not just long arms. 2 teeth, not 2 mammary glands. Freely rotating arms, not rotating arms, and then elbow joints allowing rotation of the forearm, not just elbow joints rotate. So be careful when you come across such a question. The second part that we are going to look at is now the what? The differences. Now, what do we differentiate here? We look at Homo sapiens, which are modern humans. We now compare them to other primates, which are your great apes. Now we look at the differences between the two. So we have the differences. This whole thing is the what? Is the skull. Is the skull. This whole thing is the skull. Now when we get to this difference, learners usually write larger skull instead of a larger cranium. It's wrong if you write large skull. It must be larger cranium or large cranium. And then other primates, they have a smaller what? A smaller cranium, not the skull. Why do we have to emphasize on the cranium? Remember, the cranium houses what? It houses the brain. And we focus on the brain here. So if you say the skull, this is also part of the skull. And it has nothing to do with the brain. So it is important that you write large cranium, small cranium. And not big. We don't want to see any of your answers having the word big in any of your answers. Whether it's the canines, whether it's the jaws or whatever, we don't use the word big. We only use words such as large and small. So if the skull is like this, we know that we have a larger brain as compared to other primates, right? So then the question on the paper, it shows you a skull like this. And then they ask for the differences. We find learners who write what? Large brain. Should we give that a mark, even though it's correct? We can't. Why? Because you have to give visible reason. And the brain is not what? The brain is not visible. It is the cranium that is visible. Am I making sense? Yes. Now, we also look at the second characteristic, which is different between us and the other primates, is that we have a flat what? A flat face. And they have a sloping face. I would rather say you focus on the flat face and the sloping face. This one is challenging. Just go for facing slope. Sloping face or flat face. And then the third characteristic that we look at, which is different, it is the foramen magnum. The foramen magnum, which is on a more forward position. You see, the more is highlighted. Ne? If you just write foramen magnum, forward position at the bottom of the skull, no mark. That more must be in your answer. Not just forward, but more forward. And for other primates, the foramen magnum, it's at a more backward position at the bottom of the skull. In full. Then, the other difference that we look at is the brow ridges. The brow ridges are these ones, where we have our eyebrows here. These are the brow ridges. Now, both the humans and the other primates, they do have brow ridges. Ne? But the only difference is that our brow ridges, they are not well developed. While for other primates, their brow ridges are well developed. Ladies and gentlemen, please, for the brow ridges, we only use well developed or not well developed, not other terms. We don't want to see terms such as prominent, not prominent or prominent. Ne? We use the word not well developed or well developed. Then number 5, smaller canines. We know what are canines, right? Those sharp teeth. Ne? So we say smaller canines for us, and for other primates they have larger canines, not big canines, large canines. And here you are not going to say small teeth, large teeth. You must be specific. Which teeth are we focusing on? We are focusing on the what? On the canines. On the canines. Then the 6th one is that we have smaller spaces between the teeth, which is us, the modern humans. We have smaller spaces between our teeth, and then other primates, they have larger spaces. Now, one word for the space in between the teeth, we call it diastema. So even if it is on the one word, the space between the teeth of a species, you will know it is diastema. Then the 7th one is the palate shape. The palate of modern humans, it is small and round, and the palate of other primates, it is long and rectangular. Then the 8th one, the jaws with the teeth on are gentle or round or curved, or they make a C shape, while other primates, their jaws with the teeth are making a shape which is rectangular or U-shaped. Then this one, which is the jaws. The jaws, we only use the term prognathous. You only use the term prognathous on what? On the jaws. Only on the jaws. Then, us as modern humans, our jaws, we say they are non-prognathous, while the jaws of other primates are prognathous. Now, for prognathous, please be very careful on that one. It is none for modern humans. And then for other primates, it's prognathous. So please, you either use the word prognathous or protruding. Now, when you use the word protruding jaw, for us modern humans, we say less protruding jaws, and then for other primates, it's more protruding jaws. So you must choose between the two. If you are going to use this one, it is none. Then if you use protruding, it must be less. Then the 10th one, the lower jaw, it has a well-developed what? Chin. So for the chin, we use the word well-developed. For us, our chin is well-developed, while for other primates, the chin is poorly developed. Then the 11th one, we look at the cranial ridges. The cranial ridges on the cranium. Now, we do not have, so it must be no cranial ridges for us as modern humans, but for the other primates, we know that the cranial ridges are at the top of the cranium. So these are the characteristics that are different when we look at the skull. Then when we look at the spine, our spine, it is more curved or it is S-shaped. Rather, we use this one, S-shaped. This one, learners would write curved and they would not remember the more. So rather write S-shaped. Should there be a question on the spine? So our spine is S-shaped, whereas the spine of other primates, it is C-shaped. Then the pelvis, it is the pelvic girdle, the hip bone. The hip bone, our hip bone, it is short and wide. Both the short and the wide, they must be in your answer. Not only short. So for us, it's short and wide, whereas for other primates, it is long and narrow. So the mistakes made when answering the difference in terms of the brain size. You see here I have two skulls. Ne? This skull, this one, it is showing the what? The brain. Whereas this one, it is not showing the brain. So you must look at your diagram and you must check if whether the brain is visible or not. If the brain is not visible, you cannot mention it. You only mention the brain if it is visible. If you don't see the brain, you will just write a larger what? A larger cranium, which is this one. Then the foramen magnum for humans, please remember, more forward position. For African apes, more backward. In both cases, you must refer to more forward or more backward position at the bottom of the skull. If you did not know what is the foramen magnum, here it is. Then the brow ridges, it's this one. Remember, I said we use well-developed or not well-developed. No marks will be allocated for big and small, visible and not visible, or prominent and not prominent. Please, ladies and gentlemen. Then for the lower jaw, in terms of the chin, I did mention that we use well-developed or poorly developed. Then the jaws, I also mentioned we only use these terms for the jaws. Then the teeth, which is the canine, it's larger canine or smaller canine. It is canine and not what? And not teeth. Not big, not small. Thank you. Then, I quickly want us to look at the questions. And the question that I want us to look at it is question 3.1. Question 3.1. Now, if we look at question 3.1, it says, the diagram below shows the skulls of two species of primates. Remember, us and the great apes, we are primates, ne? So it shows the skull of the two species of primates. Now the first question says, tabulate three observable. Tabulate what? Three observable differences between skull 1 and skull 2. That shows the trends in human evolution. Also the differences, it's important that we must know all of them. Now, the emphasis is on what? It's on observable what? Observable differences. Those that you see. In your answer, we don't want to see things that you don't see. So what do we see then? We see the what? A large cranium. For who? For skullman. Skull 2, right? Skull 2 has a larger cranium, while skull 1 has a small cranium. Should a learner be allocated a mark if they write brain, large brain, small brain? No, because the brain is not visible. Then what is the other difference that we see? We can see what? The face. Skull 1, the face is sloping, whereas skull 2 is flat. Flat face. Then the third one, what is it that you see as well? The jaws. What about the jaws? What did I say about the jaws? The jaws, we use which term? Yes. The what? Skull 2 is C-shaped? No. What do we say about the jaws? The jaws of skull 1 is how? The jaw of skull 1 is prognathous, right? Then the skull of the skull 2 is non-prognathous. We only talk of the jaw. We use the term prognathous when we talk of the jaws. And you only mention the differences that we spoke about. In our differences, there was no difference of the skull being C-shape or what. They did mention which is C-shape and which one is rectangular. And you cannot mention that. Why? Because do we see it here? Do we see the palate shape? We don't see the palate shape, ne? So your answer will be incorrect, even though it is a difference that you must know. We only focus on the differences that are observable in the diagram that is given to you. Is it clear, ladies and gentlemen? Can we talk about the foramen magnum here? Why? It's not visible, but it is a difference that you must know. Is it clear? Is it clear, ladies and gentlemen? Then look at 3.1.2. 3.1.2, it says give 4 characteristics of the what? Of the upper limb. What is the upper limb? The upper limb is from here up until here. Yes, from here up until here is the upper limb. Now, what did you do when you were studying the differences? I mean the similarities. You only studied the first 5, ne? Then you answer. What is the first similarity that we share from the notes? It's upright posture, ne? Can you write upright posture here? No. Why? Because it is not a characteristic of the upper limb. So you have to know all those characteristics. Can we just mention 4? Which characteristics? You only focus on the upper limb. Yes. What are those characteristics? Yes. Opposable thumb. It's here. It's on the limb. Right? Another one. Yes. What? But what is the characteristic that allows us to swing from the different branches? Yes. Freely rotating arms. Another one. Limbs, yes. Bare fingertips. Another one. They said 4. Yes. Remember, What is this? When you are doing this, you are not saying anything. What is this? It's elbow joint which allow the rotation of the forearm. And we must mention it in full. So do you understand why I say it's important that you study all those characteristics? All of them. Don't say I'm just going to study 5 or 6. They can just say characteristics regarding 1, 2, 3. And you should be able to answer. So that is just what I wanted us to look at. Now, the other thing that we must know is the significance of the change. Now, when we were doing the differences, we noticed that the foramen magnum of humans or modern humans, it's at a more forward position, while for other primates, it is at a more backward position. So these are the changes that led to bipedalism. For us to know if organism is bipedal, we look at 3 characteristics. And what are those characteristics? We look at the foramen magnum, we look at the pelvis, and we look at the spine. These 3, they tell us if the organism is bipedal or not. Now, what are those characteristics or what are those changes that led to bipedalism? We noticed that the foramen magnum was in a backward position for other primates. It was in a more backward position at the bottom of the skull in the apes, again. But in humans, it is in a what? In a more forward position. So now, this represents the change from what? From quadrupedal to bipedal. What does that mean? It means that quadrupedal organisms will have a foramen magnum which is more backward, while organisms that are bipedal will have a foramen magnum which is at a more forward position. Now, why should we be bipedal, or what is the advantage, the significance of us being what? Being bipedal. These are the 4 significance that you must know when associated with the foramen magnum. So our foramen magnum, it is at a more forward position, which indicates what? Bipedalism. And bipedalism will allow us to have what? An increased awareness of the environment. Not just awareness, but an increased awareness of the environment. Also, if you are bipedal, you will have freely rotating arms, again, which will allow you to walk and still be able to carry what? Carry objects. Also, exposure to large surface area for thermoregulation, and being bipedal, it's an advantage because it also displays sex organs. So if the question says, explain the significance of the change, explain the significance of the position of the foramen magnum in modern humans. You have to state that the foramen magnum, it is at a more forward position, which indicates what? Bipedalism. And bipedal organisms will have what? An increased awareness of the environment, freely rotating hands, and they will be able to carry objects, exposure to a large surface area for thermoregulation, and the display of sex organ. Meaning that question can equate to 5 marks. If they say, explain the significance of the position of the foramen magnum in modern humans. Then, When we look at the pelvis here, the pelvis of humans, we say it is short and wider, while the pelvis of other primates is long and narrow. So if we look at this pelvis, we have pelvis A, pelvis B, and pelvis C. Pelvis C will represent who? Other primates or humans? Will it represent other primates or humans? Humans. Why? Because it is short and wider. So this indicates what? Bipedalism. Then for other primates, which is a chimpanzee, they will have what? They will have a long and narrow. It's long and narrow pelvis because they are quadrupedal. Now, the significance of us having a short and wider pelvis is that it supports greater weight due to upright posture. Or you can say it supports the upper weight because it is short and it is wider. Then the third one that we look at is the spine. Here are different spines. This is humans. The shape of the spine is S-shape. Whereas for other primates here, it makes what? A C shape. Now, what is the advantage of us having, or the significance for us to have an S-shaped spine? It's because it allows what? Flexibility and shock absorption. It is S-shaped, so when you land on the ground, that S-shape, it's there to absorb the what? The shock. So you must also know the significance of the shape of the spine. Other significance that we must know, we look at the cranium. Remember, our cranium size is large. And other primates, the cranium size is small. Now, what is the significance of us having a larger brain? Better coordination of movement. You see that better? It's very important. If your answer does not have better, you just write coordination of movement, your answer is incorrect. Other organisms, they are able to do what? To coordinate. Other primates, they can coordinate and they can move. But for us, because of we have a larger cranium, it allows for better coordination of movement. The second one is that we process a large amount of information. This large amount of information is very important. Not just process information, but to process a large amount of information. Then process information faster. Then the last one, the development of spoken and written language. Which takes us to question 3.1.3. If you look at question 3.1.3, it says you must explain how an increase in what? In cranial volume is related to what? To intelligence. Cranial volume. Ne? So, cranial, it means cranium. Cranial. Ne? Now, we have a larger what? A larger cranium, which will lead to a larger cranial what? Cranial volume. A larger cranium cranial volume will lead to a larger brain. Then us having a larger brain, it means we will be able to process large amount of information, faster. That shows that we are more intelligent. Other primates are still intelligent, but we are more intelligent because we process information faster and we are able to process large amount of information. For you to be regarded as intelligent, you must be able to process information faster and process large amount of information. So the answer will be, it says explain how an increase in cranial volume is related to intelligence. So a larger cranial volume will lead to a larger brain. Then if we have a larger brain, it means that the information will be processed faster, and then information will be processed in large amounts. So that is why the larger the cranial volume, the more intelligent the organism becomes. So that is what will be expected from you when you answer that question. So it is the significance. Then the other significance that we must know in terms of prognathism, remember prognathism, we talk of the jaws. We talk of the jaws. They are protruding. Of other primates, it's more protruding, and then for us, it is less protruding. You have to know why. The reason our jaws are less protruding is because we eat food that is soft and cooked, or food that is cooked and soft. So, having to eat food that is soft and cooked, it means we would need less what? Less biting force, because we use the jaws to do what? To bite. Okay? So, if the food is cooked and soft, it means the biting force will be what? Will be reduced. But other primates, they have what? They have a more protruding what? Jaw. Why? Because they eat food that is hard and raw, or the food that is raw and hard. So because the food is raw and hard, it means that when they bite the meat, which is raw and hard, the biting force will be what? Will be increased. So if they say, explain the change in the significance in the jaws of modern humans in terms of diet, you must know we talk of what? We talk of the type of the food that we eat. So other primates, they have what? They have more protruding what? Jaws, because they eat hard and raw food, which makes them to need an increase in the biting what? In the biting force. The change was what? As modern humans now, we eat the food that is cooked and soft, meaning the biting force will be reduced, or the biting force will be less. So the jaws are associated with diet. Then teeth, obviously we look at the what? At the canines. Other primates, they have what? Large canines, and we have small canines. It is also because of the what? Of the diet. We eat the food that is soft and cooked. That is why our canines are very small. And then other primates, they eat the food that is raw and hard. Then the chin, we were told that our chin is well developed, whereas for other primates, their chin is not well developed or it's poorly developed. Why is our chin well developed? It's because the chin assists us with what? With speech. That is what you must know. The significance of having a well-developed chin. It is for the development of, it assists us with speech. Then we also have the zygomatic acts. In humans, the zygomatic acts is this one. Our zygomatic acts, they are less developed. Why are they less developed? It's because of we eat the food that is soft and cooked. So there is no need for strong muscle attachment due to the decrease in the jaw size, because our jaws are less protruding. But for other primates, their zygomatic arc is more developed because they need strong muscle attachment, as they have jaws that are more protruding. So these are the significance that we must know and we must be able to look at. So if the question says explain the significance, state how it is and what is the benefit, the advantage of it being like that. The significance of the size of the cranium is that it must be large. Large cranium leads to a large brain. Then, what happens when someone has a large brain? They process information faster. They process large amount of information. Better coordination of movement. Is it clear, ladies and gentlemen? Then if they say, explain the change in the significance of the size of the teeth. The first question was what? Explain the significance. It had no change. This question now has what? Explain the change in the significance in terms of the size of the teeth. It is important that you state how were the teeth before and why were they like that before and what was the change. Is it clear, ladies and gentlemen? If the question says, explain the change in the significance in terms of the size of either the teeth or in terms of either the size of the cranium. So, ladies and gentlemen, our time is up and I would like to wish you all the best. Thank you.